My stepsister lied about me and it ruined my life. When I 30 male was 13, I made out with and fooled around with my stepsister, who was 17, her and I had been getting used to scratching each other's heads and tickling each other's arms. One night, all my siblings and step-siblings were in the same room for a sleepover and everyone was asleep. I had never kissed a girl or done any sexual activities at the time. I initiated making out, she reciprocated. Then it moved to touching downstairs. After a while, she seemed less into it and I noticed and then stopped. I was confused over it, and eventually we went to sleep. No words were exchanged at all during the whole thing. The next morning, her mother came in the room and hugged me, telling me I'll protect you. I didn't understand what was going on. The next day, my dad told me we had to go talk with the police. I found out she had told her mom that I assaulted her. I freaked out and pleaded that that wasn't what happened at all. I gave my testimony, hyperventilating. My father said nothing and took me back to my mom and stepdad's house and talked to them about it. My mom and stepdad then told me I was grounded forever. They took my door off its hinges so I had no privacy. No more video games or friends. Just church, the Bible, and silence. The next day, my dad called and told me her father was pressing charges against me, and that basically, life is going to be harder for me from here on out. I couldn't stop crying. For about a month all I did was cry alone. My mom and dad took me to a therapist, who after just reading through papers, without asking me anything, said you're a pretty sick kid. Huh? Think you're invincible? I told him no. Then he proceeded to keep asking me redundant questions about my inappropriate behavior, to which I cried and eventually was screaming I didn't want to hurt anyone and that didn't happen. My parents ended the session early and my dad was very pissed off, telling him he won't be paying him, and we left. We used to go to our dad's with the step-siblings, but now we were going at separate times. My siblings and my other step-siblings had no clue what was happening. My step-brother ended up getting wrong information, and told kids at school who were already looking for a reason to hurt me. After that, I would show up to school every single day and get beat up by this group of kids way taller. I would go home and tell my stepdad, and he would say I deserved it. My stepmother turned out to be a drunken two-faced witch. She's been to the two most expensive rehabs in the country and is still an alcoholic to this day. She ended up telling my stepdad's ex-wife, who then filed full custody and got his daughter taken away from him. He then started physically attacking me. Eventually, I would go to church and they would see the bruises and I couldn't say anything. Months go by. Numbness, isolation, hope lost. And then, one day, my father showed up at my house to talk to me. He told me she retracted her accusation. She had been acting strange, and her dad noticed, and eventually she admitted that she lied. It was consensual. He immediately dropped the pending charges. What happened next though, was strange. No one apologized. My parents and step-parents all acted like, what now? They had punished me. They took my door off. My stepmom gossiped and told everyone, and it was all a lie. One would think an apology and real therapy was in order, right? My stepsister insisted to see me. She showed up unannounced and I broke down when I saw her. I apologized so much and she told me to stop and she should be the one to apologize and that we're all good. Everything is gonna be okay now. Visitation between step-siblings and siblings resumed as before, but both sides of my family and step-families aren't like other families. The dysfunction ran deep: bitterness, narcissism, and pride. My stepmother continued to tell people I had done what I didn't do, even after her daughter came forward. No one even batted an eye that I was 13 and she was 17. I didn't get a single apology from literally anyone. I didn't get my door back on its hinges, so they couldn't punish me anymore, but they reversed nothing besides the grounding. After the summer I had lost was nearing its end, I grew a lot and was a very good-looking kid. I had spent my time essential in my prison cell-like room and day-to-day mostly just doing calisthenics and reading the Bible, so I was absolutely shredded. My mom and stepdad found a new church to join, so we started going to Wednesday night youth group. I got a lot of attention from the girls, and started having teenage relationships. I started acting out. Both the massive relief combined with the new attention from the girls had me challenging the youth pastor constantly, being the class clown at school when high school started a few months later, and committing dumb crimes like breaking and enterings at abandoned factories and spray painting stuff. My parents would ask me genuinely why I was acting out like they didn't know, and I didn't know, so I'd just say you don't understand. So they sent me to the youth pastor who was also a counselor. My mom made me tell him what happened and that she came forward and admitted to lying. He then told my mom he'd be watching me around the girls since they're paying a lot of attention to me. Huh? WTF? Still don't understand that. He then started playing police with me at youth group events. A few years later, at 16, my little sister walked in on me naked after I showered. She then told that to her therapist, who her father had been making her see to try to gossip about my mom so they could get full custody from her. My little sister's dad had found out from my stepmom about the lie and never knew the truth, So the walking in on me incident plus their misinformation. They used their money very rich to get custody and filed sexual misconduct against me. It literally happened again, twice. I speak with the judge and they clear me completely of wrongdoing. Still, my mom was scared of my little sister's dad's family's power, so she let go of custody. I didn't see her for 2 years. Later, when I finally saw her, she apologized profusely and told me she was manipulated, and I forgave her and told her it's not our fault, our family is so fucked up. After the not guilty verdict came, I was more fucked up than ever. I wasn't interested in drugs, drinking, or crime. I wanted to do it. I weirdly became obsessed with women genuinely wanting me, not having to wear them down or convince them or do game with them like many a loser guy I've seen do. I would think, wow, I really want to have awesome consensual sexual relationships with beautiful women, which is strange to think on rather than it just be a given. I had been so messed up. I started having as many sexual relationships as I possibly could. I rode the bus with this girl who moved to town from out of state and became her first friend. I told her about the who thing and she thought it was horrible and somehow convinced me the best way to rebel against my parents and church leaders was by going at it as much as possible. So after we'd get off the bus, on the walk home to our houses, we'd go into the woods and do it every day. This continued until her parents decided to move back home. Then, I just started having sexual relationships with the girls in youth group. There were 3 girls who went to youth group as a type of punishment from their parents, so they were very down. But then I ended up engaging in sexual activity with the pastor's daughter in the baptism tub. My family got kicked out of the church. I didn't care. Once I turned 17, I left home and stayed with my friend who was a girl, and her parents let me live with them and even sleep in her room. Strange. I dropped out of school and got my general education diploma, so for a while I didn't do anything. She knew what I had been through, and since I was single she lamented to me she wanted to safely experiment and always thought I was hot, so we just started doing it non-stop. We'd wake up, do it. She'd go to school, I'd drive around and do whatever, then she'd get off work and we'd get food and just do it a lot. I turned 18 and immediately got an apartment, and it was amazing. I had a job where I would drive across the Midwest taking pictures of abandoned meth houses that banks own to assess the damage the meth labs do. I'd be gone for a week at a time. At a recently abandoned house, they left their cat there and he was waiting for them to return like Charmander in Pokemon. So I picked him up in some random shithole Midwest town and he became my cat. After all this, maybe things are finally back to normal. Nope. At 21, I got a part-time job working at a community center that provided after-school programs for children. One day, while I was supervising the kids, 2 school administrators asked me to step aside. They informed me that I was listed on a child protection registry, which I hadn't heard of before. I then asked what for, and they said they can't see that due to privacy regulations. I got immediately fired and escorted off the property. I called my dad and he admitted my stepmom pleaded with the police even after her daughter admitted to lying that I'm a danger to others and my name should be on that registry. I lost my mind. I studied everything I could on how to get my name off. I had to go to a psych, get a letter of recommendation, literally one from my stepsister who kindly wanted to help, and go through all this paperwork. My dad told me, if you don't get your name off, it's not the end of the world. I told him, yes it is. Luckily, they granted my request and even sent a letter saying it never should have even been on the list. It took over a year. After 9 years, it was finally over. I enter into a great relationship with the woman I've been with for 6 years, but the beginning was rocky due to my issues. I went to see a therapist to prevent our relationship from failing. The first thing he did was tell me he wanted to test me for Asperger's autism. I was shocked and said, I'm not autistic. I then went through tests and turns out I'm very autistic, haha. Afterward, I basically started telling him all that I'm telling you guys, and he said, it sounds like you're owed a lot of apologies. I had never felt an emotional rush like in that moment. I felt like a small, emotional hurt little boy again in a split second, and tears just started rolling down. I still never got any apologies from anyone. Instead, no one ever mentions it and we pretend it never happened. Today I'm pretty okay, but it's hard to ever feel like I can ever truly be healthy and move on. Even though this happened, I'm always the positive one with my friends, being the one to encourage others to never give up and do their best because we only have this one life, which I've been told by my girlfriend is surprising given what I went through. I feel like I'll never truly feel whole, like a part of my childhood was robbed from me. I'm prone to paranoia and distrust of others pretty bad. I have a hard time believing anything anyone says about anything. Edit. Thank you very much for the replies. In a way, I finally received many apologies, even if they're not from who they should be coming from. I really appreciate them and they felt very good. I have rarely been able to talk about this with others due to the very sensitive nature of anything related to understandably so. so, but it seems getting lied about while actually having to interface with the police and court is a bit rarer. One thing my girlfriend pointed out is that despite all of this, I don't hate women. I feel many people who would have gone through this would speak on women in an insulting way, but strangely that didn't happen, and I would suggest that if anyone else has been falsely accused to not throw the entirety of women under the bus. I think my stepsister was very scared. It was the wrong thing to do, but she at least did recitify and came to my aid later in trying to get my name off. To those who asked if I still speak with my family, yes, I do, but it's deeply fragmented. All my step-siblings have come to me as an adult and told me how fucked up their mother was to me. My blood siblings weren't involved, so we're cool. My mom eventually got diagnosed with autism too, and I think she just didn't understand anything that was going on. She divorced my stepdad long ago, so he's out of the picture. As far as my dad and stepmom goes, my dad is sort of a weaker man who just kind of follows my stepmom, so the way he's kind of been there for me I think is to just give me whatever support I might need. My stepmom and I just don't talk. I know that it's common for people on Reddit to say cut your family off, but it just isn't that simple. Life is complicated. Sometimes shit happens and we have to heal through things. My siblings needed me, and my friends needed me, so I couldn't just run away as a kid no matter how much I thought about it. I really appreciate all the responses. 3.